You're listening to the Southampton Delivery Podcast, a podcast dedicated to the Southampton Football Club and all of the SFC fans.
If you want to have guarantees, you have to buy a washing machine.
Fonte with a scooping header.
We don't lose a match, either we win or we learn. And today we learned.
It's infield to Mane, 25 yards out. Lovely ball for Bella. Onside, 1-0. Buffon shot. Oh my word!
Unbelievable. We ran around the pitch like Bambi on ice. It was very, very embarrassing to watch.
And now, your host, Matt Markstone.
Hello and welcome to another episode of the Southampton Delivery Podcast, a podcast and newsletter dedicated to the Southampton Football Club and all of the SFC fans, and available right here on southamptondelivery.com. My name is Matt Markstone. I am the host of the show, and no matter where you are, no matter how you may be listening, whether this is your first time or you've been here before, thanks for making the show a part of your day. I hope that you enjoy it. And while there's no football to talk about, and while I'm sure that you're listening either in your home or out on your hour-long exercise break, or maybe in the back garden, maybe doing some work, whatever it is, I hope that you're keeping well. I hope that you are safe. I hope that your family is doing the same also. And on this week's episode, we have Rob Maddox to help kind of walk through some things. And, you know, since we're on lockdown, we were supposed to play Watford this week. We were scheduled for that. So obviously handballs are on my mind. And we'll talk a little bit about handballs. We'll talk a little bit about being locked down, about defending, being if we have lockdown defenders. I'll give you a hint for the rest of the show. We don't really. And so that will, of course, be hopefully something we focus on over the summer, but we'll get to that later. Additionally, we'll talk about some of the things, including the Saints as One program that Southampton launched, other teams, Premier League teams, furloughing non-playing staff and things like that. And hopefully we get all the way through that and answer some of your questions in this episode. So once again, I hope that you're well. Hope your family is well. Let's just get into the episode right now. If you want to follow Rob on Instagram, you can do that. It's at Rob Maddox _. And while you're there, you can follow the partner of the show, the Southampton page. They're at Southampton page 1. But yeah, that does it for now. Let's get to the interview, and I'll talk to you on the other side. We'd like to welcome back to the Southampton Delivery Podcast, Rob Maddox. You can find him on Instagram at Rob Maddox _. Rob, I think I owe you an apology because a couple of weeks ago you were supposed to come on the show. We were actually still playing football, and I had a situation where I needed to cancel that. We set it up for Watford, and now there's no football to talk about, but you're here anyway, so thank you, and I'm sorry, and I'll make it up to you somehow.
Sorry, don't worry about it. It's just rough that there's no football on at the moment, for sure.
It's
definitely, yeah.
You know, we've been talking, it's not the worst thing in the world, but it definitely is. There's a giant football-sized hole in a lot of our lives, and that's okay, except for we have a lot more time to sit down and watch it.
Saturdays aren't the same anymore, I should say that.
No. And I think you and I've been looking for, trying to find Saints matches and things to look back on and watch, and it's quite easy to find things from the early 90s and late 80s. As long as we're losing those games, but finding actual good quality video of us playing full matches, not as easy on the internet. But we'll do what we can over the coming weeks to kind of help prop it up a little bit, I think.
Oh yeah, definitely, yeah.
What have you been? What's your life look like right now? I mean, we're locked down. Are you working? Are you at home? What's going on?
So basically, as most of the UK probably know, a lot of people are being furloughed at the moment. That's where the government steps in and pays 80% of your average yearly wage, which is great. That's what I've been put on. So obviously, I work in retail, and my store I work in an electrical store, and that's not essential. So they've basically said, okay, you can close. Employees stay at home. You guys get furloughed. So if I'm honest, I'm okay with that because I'm still getting some money, which is great. But yeah, basically just trying to be keeping active as much as possible. Been hanging out not by myself, but yeah, it's not as bad as I thought it would be, but it is getting a bit boring now, a bit tedious.
Yeah. And you guys are allowed one walk a day, right? One exercise period.
Yeah, Boris has given us 1 hour a day to do what we need to do. So that's fun.
We don't have a specific number, but we have 4 people in the house. So I'm trying to say, like, look, I'll go on my walk and you go with me. Then you'll go on your walk and I'll go with you, just because I need to like get out of the house. But my family's not going for that. They just want me to leave them alone.
Yeah, you need to find a loophole.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, I know what you mean.
And we don't live. We only have 4 people on our cul-de-sac, so it's not like we're not hanging out with them. We did sit in the front yard with the neighbors the other day, 10 feet apart from one another, and had some wine. That was nice. Except for I drank way too much, but that's different problem there. But yeah, so I mean, being furloughed, I guess, isn't the worst thing. You don't have to expose yourself to like all the dangers of being out, and it sounds like you're still getting paid, which I think is the big deal for a lot of people who are worried about losing their jobs at this point.
Yes. Yeah, I mean, I feel bad for people who have had to be laid off. There's a couple of my friends who've had to be laid off, like chefs and stuff, because they work for people who own their own businesses, so people who are self-employed. So it is quite rough if you don't work in a chain, for sure.
Okay.
But yeah, it could be a lot worse for many people. But I do feel bad for the people who've lost their jobs because of this. Yeah.
My wife works at a restaurant as well, and they had to be essentially the restaurant's closed. Everybody's goes on unemployment, which is not the same as being furloughed, but they do get 2/3 of their pay, so that'll come in, and then our government has kicked in some a one-time payment basically to everybody who makes under $75,000 annually, and then $500 per kid on top of that. So some money coming in for people, but that's definitely not enough. But it is, trying to make sure we don't completely wreck the economy while this is going through everybody.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, I think the economy is taking a hit for sure. Definitely.
Yeah. I mean, kind of speaking of being furloughed, I haven't seen anything come out of Southampton about staff being laid off, but I have heard other clubs are furloughing people and things like that. I mean, have you heard anything about that from other football clubs? And I mean, what's your kind of take on that stuff?
Yeah. So last night, Twitter basically exploded because Liverpool had announced that I think all their non-playing staff are going on furlough, which is crazy because if you think about it, they're a massive corporation. They got so much money. They're giving footballers tens of thousands every week. And so for them not to take a pay cut, I think now they are speaking about doing that, but for them not to take a pay cut, take it from the players and give it to the sports scientists or for the physiotherapists or for the chefs or for the stewards or whatever, I think it's just wrong, really. The actual people who keep the club ticking along. I think it's wrong that obviously footballers get paid, as we all know, a heck of a lot of money, which is fair enough because they are really good at what they do. Mm-hmm. But that money seriously needs to be cut down and given to other people. There's a really big pressure. Our Secretary of State, I think it was Matt Hancock, he really, really grilled into footballers saying that they need to take these pay cuts in order for the economy to get better, something like that, which is completely fair enough. But lots of Premier League clubs are doing this.
Yeah, and the people who are being furloughed or being laid off are obviously the people who are going to be most vulnerable to this. Probably the least likely to be able to sustain something like that, right? Like this is going to be the hardest thing for them to deal with. Whereas not all footballers necessarily, but most footballers will be able to go without pay for a little bit simply because they make so much more. They obviously probably spend more. They live in nicer houses, they drive nicer cars and all that stuff. But it's you look at a lot of people, especially in the United States, and I think around the world, like people live paycheck to paycheck or month to month. And that's just the way that it goes. And to tell these people, hey, you don't have a job now, that's a big deal. But I haven't seen anything about that at Saints. And you did say there that footballers make a heck of a ton of money, and they should be maybe willing to part with some of that. I think the PFA have come out and said they're looking into doing something like that with the Premier League. And I don't know, like. I think obviously Southampton's losing money this year. A number of football clubs are losing money this year, but they still have these kind of giant piles of money. They could potentially, pay their staff and just keep them on and keep them employed rather than even relying on the players to go and do that stuff, you know?
Yeah, I mean, it's come out this morning. The Burnley chairman's basically said that if the Premier League doesn't kick up and start again, whether it's playing behind closed doors or whatever, the club will be financially bust by August. So
Really?
it'll be financially, yeah. So Burnley would be mudded in August if the Premier League doesn't kick up or they don't get something financially from the club, which is absolutely crazy. With the amount, I mean, you'd think, wouldn't you? The amount of stuff a club in the Premier League has in terms of income. It's got ticket sales, shirt sales. It's got television rights. All these different things coming into the club. They can't sustain themselves for 3 months. Is absolutely mental, honestly. I'm sure the players will take a cut. I'd hope they would, as it's their club. I know if it was my club, I'd definitely try and take a cut for it because it means so much to people. But it is, yeah, it's definitely a crazy time for sure.
I mean, we tend to think of Burnley as being one of those clubs that's been doing things the right way. You know, they don't pay people a ton of money. I mean, the football is not overly attractive, and they're going to be one of these clubs that is, you know, financially busting. I mean, it blows my mind that with as much money coming into the Premier League as there is, I guess maybe I'm wrong, and I guess everybody's just on this super tight kind of budget. It's not just people in the lower economic sphere, I guess, you know. I mean, maybe footballers are like that too. I don't know. It just seems all the things I was taught about finances as a kid, you know, growing up, is you save your money and be able to, like, you know, plan for. You're supposed to have 6 months worth of kind of things backed up to, like, kind of cover yourself, and here's Burnley Football Club not being able to do that, and that's not great, you know.
No, not so. It's not good at all.
And I do know a couple of other. I heard a couple of other conversations about Tottenham doing some stuff, and they just looked at, you know, how much certain players were being paid and what it would cost to keep the non-playing staff on and not furlough them versus, you know, how much of a hit that would be to their finances and what it would be, and it just doesn't seem like the right situation's being made in some instances, but we'll have to wait and see. I was trying to look up. I know some financial results were put up. So according to The Price of Football, which if anybody hasn't read the book, they are donating some proceeds from the book for charities to help out during this time. But The Price of Football, they have a podcast and everything. It's just about the money in football. It's quite entertaining, actually. But Premier League clubs posted a collective loss before taxes of £187 million. Two of the top three most profitable clubs are furloughing their staff. So that's not great. Southampton posted the third biggest loss of any club before taxes, £41 million, according to their graph here. Spurs, though, had a massive profit of £87.4 million. They're furloughing people. Burnley, second biggest profit at 45.1, and now we're saying that they may not survive this if this happens. And then Liverpool, 41.9 billion. You said they were furloughing their people as well. So not a great. It doesn't look good for Premier League clubs, especially with all the money. And then I think if you just look down the table a little bit, or not down the table, but down the leagues, if Premier League clubs aren't going to be able to withstand this, you think about some of the teams in the third division or second or third division where the players don't make as much, the clubs don't make as much. They're more reliant on kind of match day revenue and things like that. And all of a sudden we're in a real big problem. And
yeah,
you know, people are saying that football may not look the same after this. And I have to agree with them, I think, at this point.
Well, the FA, I think it was the FA or UEFA, I can't remember who it was, but I think they set 125 million. I think that's the figure. I think they set 125 million pounds to be sent to the lower leagues, like the national leagues and non-leagues. For example, my local team, Bath City, they're going to be getting some of this as well, in order to keep their keep financially going.
Okay.
I know they've set that in place, which is really good, but it's going to be really tough for those like League One, League Two teams. Probably Portsmouth go down, but hey, who knows? Who knows?
Yeah. Well, I mean, not the brightest of times, and I know that we don't always want to talk about the coronavirus thing, but it is wreaking havoc on the football that we love, and I mean, things may look a lot different by the time this is over, and we don't we don't really know. It's tough to predict some of that stuff, but I have been paying more attention to the financial side of things from especially the guys over at the Price of Football, just to see how, what they're making of all of this and kind of how people are reacting. I also just clicked on Kyle Walker right now. Thought maybe,
God.
I thought maybe he was donating some money, but apparently he had a sex party.
Yep.
So that seems like a really good way to spread viruses.
Maybe not corona.
Of all sorts. So way to go, Kyle. I used to really like him as a right back. I always thought he was, but what? Not anymore. I could do without that now. One thing that Saints are doing though is they've started up with the Saints as One campaign. Are you familiar with that?
Yeah, Saints as One. I saw it was on BBC Breakfast. I think it was yesterday. I know Prowsey was on there as well. But it's a brilliant thing the club are doing. I know if you've seen the videos online, you obviously know that there's a commitment to cook about 12,000 meals over the next 12 weeks, which is the time frame that the government has given us to say, okay, this is probably how long this country is going to be affected by corona for. But obviously within Southampton being a city, there's lots of people who are being left isolated and struggling to be able to get food. So the club has partnered with someone, I think it was called Fair Share. Mm-hmm. So that's like a charitable food distributor. But the overall idea of it was to make sure that people have a sustained way of getting food sourced. And I know they're doing little things like they've also pledged, I think it was just over 1,000 free match tickets for the NHS staff and their families once football comes back up, which is absolutely fantastic. But they're getting older online exercise video for older adults, educational resources for children, donations to churches and stuff like that. It's really, really, really impressive what they're doing. But the main core of it is those 12,000 meals to disadvantaged families in the Southampton area, which is obviously absolutely fantastic. It's brilliant what they're doing.
Yeah, and this is the time when I think people and organizations need to kind of come together to get through this time. There are people, I feel I'm reminded how kind of silly it is to complain that there's no football, when other people are looking at not having a job, not being able to pay their mortgage, not being able to put food on the table. And there are people who don't have homes to go to. And the fact that, the club is willing to kind of engage in this, even if the financial cost aside, maybe it's not that much to them or whatever, but it's just taking care of those people that are out there that need help. That's kind of what it's what we should be doing. And I think it's easy to lose track of that. I know my wife is very much, she's better at that than I am. She's had, friends who have birthdays and things like that, and just trying to, whether we just drive by with a sign on our car that says, happy birthday, and we honk and leave some brownies on their porch or something, like anything to make them feel kind of special or know that they're taken care of or loved or whatever. I think people need that right now. And it's easy to just like sit here and say this sucks because there's no football and all this other stuff. But there's a lot of, I guess there's a lot of bigger things going on that you can do to make sure that other people know that they're kind of, loved and taken care of.
Yeah,
that'll get them through the day.
Completely. I mean, it's my birthday.
Are you there?
Yeah. Sorry. So I thought it was lagging out, but yeah, I know what you mean.
Yeah. When is your birthday?
My birthday's on the 11th, so it's my mate's birthday tomorrow, and we were planning on, because our birthdays are again always on the same year, very, very close, like a week apart. Uh-huh. So we were planning on like meeting up and kicking a ball around, go to the pub. But obviously that can't do that now and be spent inside. So yeah, it's gonna suck, definitely. It's not an important one, but it's
still
not great.
Still,
yeah.
My wife's friend had a birthday yesterday, and they did FaceTime shots. So yeah, it's. That work group gets out of hand, but that's my opinion. And I know my brother's in there too, so we'll see if he's listening to this at some point, because I'll get angry text messages. But yeah, I mean, I will not be driving by your house, obviously, because that would involve a very long plane flight, and then me renting a car. And last time I rented a car in England, it didn't go well. So, a hefty fine for what I did to the car, but that's okay. Anyway, so I mean, there is a lot of stuff going on in the world of football. Just none of it happens on the pitch, and there's not been a lot of information as to when this is going to come back. It looks like it's just going to be when it's safe, and we don't know when that is. So. But in the spirit of us, playing against, or supposed to be playing against Watford, or originally scheduled to play against Watford this week, just had a couple of questions. I mean, handballs in terms of what happened with Decore a couple of years ago. In your kind of time supporting Saints and thinking about football in general, is that up there with kind of the most devastating handball? Obviously, we weren't around for Maradona, or I wasn't paying attention when Maradona did it. But I mean, for you, do you have any handballs that kind of stick out in your mind as being particularly offensive?
I mean, in terms of, I would say over here, definitely you've got Maradona. That's by far the worst. Basically killed England's hopes. It started like almost an international rivalry with Argentina, which obviously we saw Bex being sent off against, I think it was 98. But you've also got one which, if you're Irish and listening, you probably won't want to listen to, but it's the Thierry Henry handball against Ireland to stop them qualifying for, I think it was the World Cup or the Euros, I can't remember which one it was. But that was huge. That was a big one. That really hurt people. I mean, in terms of Saints, I reckon the Decore one is the most controversial and the most obvious one I've ever seen by far. I have to admit, that one did hurt, the Decore one.
It was just at such a time when it seemed like we couldn't do anything right, and when we were finally going to actually get something, going our way, that happened, and it wasn't even close. And I'm trying to like rack my brain thinking about other handballs, and like I'm totally guilty of I have at one point just punched a ball over the net as a defender, which is not advised. It was just kind of a reaction, and then it was just a pickup game. So all it meant was next time I got the ball, I just got kicked really hard, because there's no sending off, because it's just a bunch of guys in the park. But like they did not appreciate that. But
another one. You've got, if you watch the 2010 World Cup, obviously Luis Suarez handball against Ghana. For African football, that's probably the biggest. That's probably the biggest thing that's happened to African football, I'd say. But Ghana would have been through to the quarters, I want to say. I think, and then obviously they missed the penalty that they got, and Suarez got sent off straight away. But you probably will remember that one.
Yeah. I remember him biting somebody.
Ivanovic, yeah.
Which, I don't know, man. Like Luis Suarez, he's fun to watch sometimes, and a lot of the kids at school like him. But man, like he's got some just weird things going on.
Yeah, he's a madness.
Yeah. I don't know, man. Like I'm trying to think of other ones that may have impacted us recently, and I know somebody will chime in and say, I can't believe you didn't talk about this one, but I'm kind of trying to think about other handballs that have hurt us or that we've gotten away with, and I can't. Maybe I'm missing some, but
no, there is one. It was one against Burnley. Probably one of my more recent games. It hit Ben. I think it was Ben Mee's hand. It was off a cross. Jack Stevens' cross. Hit his right arm. I think it was down by his side, but still hit his arm. And then you've got Spurs. Is it Spurs in the cup? I think. Let's have a look. I remember a really, really blatant one. His hand was in the air. I can't remember which one it was. But there's been a couple recently. I think the Burnley one's the biggest one though. I remember if you're on Twitter, you'll probably know Southampton page. Jay, who runs that, close friend of mine. He was sat right. He's on Match of the Day. He was sat right in front of that when that happened. He goes absolutely berserk. But I still don't know how that wasn't a penalty.
Yeah, it's I'm sure we've gotten away with a couple over the years, but the ones that go against us are always the ones that hurt, I think, a little bit more.
Yeah.
I'm stuck on the Decore one, and every time I see Watford, that's what I think of. Two things for Watford. I think of that match they had where they blocked the penalty, went down on the other end and scored, and I think I guess three things, and then I think of I think of them. What the hell is his name? Troy Deeney. I think of Troy Deeney telling Arsenal, you got to have some cojones, and then I think of the handball. Those are the two things I associate with Watford, and Elton John, I guess, too. So
yeah. I mean, I remember going to, because after we played Watford in the league, we had Watford in the cup a couple of weeks later. I remember going to that game and Decore just got booed. That was when Jack Stevens scored. He went on that goal scoring run. And Decore just got honestly, he got murdered on that pitch.
Good. Like, he blatantly cheated. He punched
good.
the ball in the
Yeah.
net, like you can't do that. So yeah. We also had a question come in this week, and obviously, like, things are a little weird. There's not a lot to talk about at this moment in time, but we did get a question from Southampton FC _talk, and I was asking us about kind of strike partnerships, and here's what the question said. It says, as the only striker in form is Ings, what forward would you bring in and why? And obviously we have no idea what the transfer window is going to look like. I mean, could be huge changes to player values and valuations, especially if the money isn't there to kind of do these things. And this, I guess, brings up a little bit to, you look at the losses that Southampton are taking this year. You look at the money we owe in the transfer market, which is not over the next couple of seasons, we're going to owe quite a bit of money being paid out to people. And you look at you think about all our players that we have out on loan and that we need to sell and what they're actually going to be worth. But aside from all that, if you're looking to partner Ings with somebody going forward, I don't really have names in mind, but do you have maybe a type of striker or a type of partner you would like to see him? Like what profile would you be looking at in terms of setting him up with the appropriate partner in this 4-2-2-2 system?
Well, I mean, personally, I don't think we need to bring in another striker. I mean, if you have a look at who we have, we got Schlong, we got Obafemi, we got Che, and we got Ingsy, right? Ingsy obviously being our talisman, he's the big one. He's absolutely mental in front of goal recently. Obviously, it's absolutely heartbreaking that he's not going to be able to go to the Euros. But then we have Long, Oba, and Che. Now, with Long, he's hopefully going to sign a new 2-year deal. And he's recently been partnered up with Ings, and they've been working fantastically. I mean, they both know each other's game very, very well. Ings has said in interviews that he prefers playing with Long over any of the others, which is completely fair enough, because they've probably been playing with each other for the most amount of time. I mean, I know Ings came in last season, but they have been playing together more regularly. And then you look at Obafemi and Che. Che Adams being fast, he's quite strong. For Birmingham, he was good in front of goal, and I still believe that will come with time. If you have a look at the statistics, in Che Adams' debut seasons, he's only scored 8 goals. That's total. In his second season, he averages about 11. So I still think that he's going to come good, which is all I really have to say about him. I mean, we saw good things like his assist against Leicester for when we won 2-1. Obviously, don't know what happened in the first leg, but in the second leg, obviously we won that game 2-1. So a really nice assist. So he's more of a number 10, should we say, a bit like Long. So I hope that he can learn off of Shane Long a bit. And then you have Obafemi, who's very, very fast. This season I think he's been playing really well. I mean, whenever I see him, he always looks to give about 80%, which is really what you want. Scored a good goal against West Ham. He didn't really do much else that game, and obviously his goal against Chelsea was absolutely fantastic. And he had a nice goal against Fulham in the Carabao Cup at the start of the season. But if I'm honest, with the players we have, I think we have the kind of players that Ralph wants. I mean, they're all pacey. Most of them are strong. Ings and Long are very good in the air as well. If I'm honest, I don't really think we need to bring people in. I think it's more about developing what we already have. To me, I don't think we need to spend money on a striker in the window, I'll be honest.
Yeah, no, I think that's it's probably prudent, given we have. I mean, Long is obviously getting up there in terms of age and how long he's gonna be able to do what he does. But I think one of the things I like about him is he's just running his socks off and runs himself into the ground, and then kind of just looks at the manager and says, like, I'm done, like bring me off. And I think that's fine. He knows his role, and I think you do that, and then depending on what the situation is, you have either Adams or Obafemi to bring on. the one thing that Long does that maybe the other guys don't do as well, maybe is win those headers, those flick-ons for Ings, you know? And I would say that if we had somebody just to do that, I would say that would be the, I would want that. I would prioritize that over maybe some of the other things. Because I think Ings can run and press as well as Long. And if you have two guys that can do that, I think that helps a lot. But I think if you just have somebody to kind of hold the ball up or win headers and draw fouls and stuff, I think that is something that we would benefit from. But I don't necessarily, like you said, think we'd have to go out and bring in another striker, because honestly, I think there are other positions in the team that we could potentially focus on.
Definitely, yeah.
And I'm not sure, even what that's gonna look like. And I think a lot of it will go down to, whether or not Højbjerg decides to stay or not. And honestly, we don't know when that contract situation is going to be rectified, because we have no idea what's happening anywhere. So I don't know were you able to listen to Adam Blackmore a couple of weeks ago on the Total Saints podcast? I don't know if you caught that. He was at his.
I don't think I did catch that one. No.
Well, he Ben and the guys had him on, and they so Ben had Blackmore on, and they were talking, and his big thing was like, if Mario Lemina has can focus in Ralph's system and come back and play, if we were to lose Højbjerg, it wouldn't be a big hit, because Lemina can do all of those things that Højbjerg can do. It's just can he do it with the consistency, and I wouldn't say that Lemina has the leadership, but like we have options. Those guys who are out on loan can be options for us, I think, and Blackmore seemed to think that Lemina would be the guy that could do that maybe most of all. And I mean, I've only seen Lemina play once in person, and it was awful. But everybody was awful, so I can't hold that against him. And I don't know. I mean, he seems exciting. He also seems like very. If I had to pick a person on our team who would pull the Kyle Walker in times of this, I think it would be him versus most of the other guys. So that's not necessarily who I want around, but there are options out there, and I think if Højbjerg decides to go somewhere, I think that could change the way we look at things moving forward.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, with Mario, I think the fans are done with him, to be honest. Obviously, he's out of Galatasaray at the moment. The only way I think that he will stay at Galatasaray is if they can offer Saints above, I think it was 15 million, the asking price, which is, what we paid 18 for him. Obviously, being a self-sustainable club at the moment, we don't really want to lose much money on him, if any. So I think Galatasaray were giving Saints the figure of about £8 million, which obviously that's not going to be enough at all. In terms of putting him into our team at the moment, obviously he doesn't start ahead of Højbjerg, but when he came back from injury last season, he scored that goal at Newcastle, and it kind of looked like things were on the up a bit more. He has shown, obviously we all know the quality he has, but I think Ralph is done with him, if I'm honest, and I think the fans are as well, because when he posted that video of him he like made himself a highlight reel, and he has this hashtag, it's on it like lemonade or something, wasn't it? And it's just, I think his ego is just way too big, I'll be honest. Obviously we all know how talented he is, and he's an absolutely fantastic player, but he's just a dick.
Yeah, no, there's an acceptable level of self-assuredness and maybe even arrogance that you have to have, I think, as a professional footballer. You have to be willing to advocate for yourself, because if you don't, then people may not give you the chance. And he's got talent, but it just doesn't quite, it feels like it's being forced a little bit. Like it's not quite right. There's something going on that just doesn't quite match up. And like I said, he wouldn't be my first choice as a guy I want in the team week in, week out. Just because the attitude doesn't seem to be right. But and to say, maybe you could say like if he fixes that, then it's all good. But like asking somebody to do that, like if you start dating somebody and they have this thing that at one point you're like, I'll just ignore that, that'll be fine. Like they'll fix that. They're not going to fix that. That's who they are, and that you can't really expect them to change that now. It just doesn't really make sense. But we'll have to see. I don't know if they've suspended play in Turkey or not. I think they did, and I think
they did. Yeah,
places in like Romania or not, they're still playing, and there was some story about people betting a ton of money on games that weren't happening in certain places. I don't know. Like the world is weird and people are doing weird stuff. And
yeah, definitely.
Like Kyle Walker. I'm just going to keep saying that over and over. I can't get over just that.
So stupid.
I was like,
so dumb.
Like maybe he's done something really nice for the people of Manchester. And it's like, nope, he didn't.
Yeah. You look at Rashford, like what he's doing and stuff, donating money and Kyle Walker's having parties. And then I think it was like 2 hours later, he posted on his Instagram, I'll make sure to self-isolate.
Nice. Way to go.
Good one, mate.
Yeah.
Nice one.
Oh man. Well, we're supposed to be isolating and lockdown essentially. And so my big idea, this is not probably the world's greatest idea. Think about guys who are basically lockdown defenders. I mean, do we have anybody in the team right now that you would say you'd fancy one-on-one defending against anybody else? Is there a player that jumps out to you as being like, you could stick them out there on an island and just let them defend by themselves and they'd be fine?
Ouch. I think the only one I'd say, obviously Stevens has been in good form, but I think the only decent centre-back we really have at the moment, obviously I'm not saying Stevens is trash or anything, I think he's great, he's in a really good form, but Bednarek, I think he's the only one for me that I'd feel comfortable putting him up as a one against anyone. Mm-hmm. Stevens is great as a ball-playing centre-back, but Bednarek just does all the dirty work.
Yeah.
Obviously, I wouldn't let Vestergaard go up against probably our under-15s team. It's that bad. But yeah, I think Bednarek definitely. I mean, he's not a Font or a Van Dijk or even a Huvel, but but Bednarek definitely.
Yeah, I think if you're looking at our current back four, that would have to be the guy, and you just think. I mean, you can see Vestergaard is just knocking around him and go right, and either he fouls you or you get by him. Yeah. I think Bednarek would have to be probably the guy that you would choose as the best kind of one-on-one defender, but none of those guys fill me with the confidence of just going like, I was thinking of the fullback position especially. Just you just set a guy out there to defend against, whether it's Eden Hazard or even a guy like Deulofeu who's going to try to beat you one-on-one. I always feel like you need help. You need a 2-on-1 situation to be able to kind of contain those guys, even though, I think Valerie had some instances, over the last year, especially where he did okay in a back five with those guys. But I think that's because he had some help. I remember I think it was him where, going home to empty his pockets that night and he had his keys and his cell phone and his wallet and Eden Hazard, I think is what that came up. But, I would need to see more of that going forward. And, if you think back to guys like Font and Van Dijk, especially who if they were one-on-one with somebody, you would just kind of go like, they're going to be fine. They're going to win that battle more often than not,
Oh yeah, 100%. Especially with Van Dijk. I don't have to tell you how good he is at the moment, but even for us, I think he was criminally underrated for us. Definitely.
Yeah, it's amazing how good he got when he got to Liverpool, right? Like that's what everybody says, and it's like actually, like if you watch him back, like he's been good for a really long time. Maybe we were just on it before everybody else, and I think that happens though when guys move on, all of a sudden they get good, and it's like no, like they were good for a long time, like. Yeah, we were just better at scouting than everybody else for a while, and now that we're not, now that everybody else is caught up, obviously the world gets a lot tougher.
Yeah, 100%. Yeah. People get to know very, very easily. I mean, if you look at his career, he never really, whenever he speaks about his career, he never really tends to mention us when he's talking about his story, which does surprise me quite a lot, seeing as he was the captain of our club. But I think, I don't know.
I think if you look at the way that it all ended and wound up, like it's probably not, he can't look back on that and be super proud of what he did, like he has to know that he made some mistakes there. And I think the fans obviously don't really appreciate that either. Like we all kind of feel like that he could have done better there. And I wish he would have done better there. Cause I like it when players leave the club kind of in a positive way. And we can look back and say like, those times were good. You look at Stephen Davis, we remember him pretty fondly, even if, unless you're somebody who just didn't like Stephen Davis as a player, then that's fine. But if you look at the way he left the club, I think that's better. Even Font kind of had that kind of weird leaving situation. And I can understand his a little bit because, you come to the club you drop down a league to play for the club. You come all the way up with the club. You're the captain of the club. You finally get to like the apex of what it's probably going to be, which is Europa League football. And then Puel doesn't play you because he doesn't want to play you twice in a week. And it's like, that would be frustrating for a guy who knows he's probably coming towards the end of his career. He may not get that chance again. And so, yeah, I can understand that kind of having that fallout. But Van Dijk, it's much harder to, I still remember where I was standing when the picture was posted, that he was, going to Liverpool or whatever. And I was just like, I don't like you.
Yeah, completely. No, yeah, I still remember that moment. I think Mane left with dignity. I think he had a good leave, but yeah, I felt bad for Font, if I'm honest, because he was class. Him and Van Dijk at the back were just different. They were both so good, but yeah, it's just very frustrating, really, isn't it?
For a long time, I always thought Font was the least good of the center backs we had, because I thought that everybody we put next to him made him look better. But as it goes on, I think actually he did a lot for the people that were next to him to make them look good too. So I have more kind of respect for him as I've gotten older and kind of watch more football than I used to. But yeah. So speaking of places we could probably improve, defending, just I don't think we have a fullback that I would stand out there on an island against most people. Going the opposite way though, if you were looking at our team, and just trying to think about the player who you'd be willing to just set one-on-one against somebody as an attacking player, like which attacking player would you pick if you could only pick one to kind of run at somebody all game?
Well, you kind of have three options. You have Buffal, Redmond, and probably DJ Musa. I'd probably, obviously Buffal's the most skilled, but the most inconsistent. Redmond's probably the most direct, and Djenepo's just consistent. He just beats people. Probably if I was looking for fun, I'd probably just go Buffal, just let him get on with it. He might not beat the man every time, but he does show off quite a lot. If you wanted results, I'd probably go for Redmond. If I had to pick one, it would probably either be Redmond or Djenepo, definitely.
See, I think Djenepo he looks like he's so lanky. It's tough to know what's happening because it doesn't look very orthodox, so Buffal seems to have more of the skill moves, more of the trickery, more of the, it's harder to predict what he's going to do, I guess. Even though it's going to be some sort of move. And I think at some point, like Buffal will just wind up getting kicked really hard because he's going to like try to flick the ball over somebody's head, like some sort of Neymar-esque situation. And I don't think Redmond would ever do that. I think Redmond will try to run by you most of the time. And I think that my only problem with Redmond doing it, picking him as the guy, is sometimes the pass after he beats the man doesn't come where it needs to. But I think Buffal also has that problem too, where it's just he tries to sometimes make one too many moves. And I think
definitely.
I think Djenepo would make a move and then generally put the ball in the area or make a pass. But I worry about him being able to do it after he gets fouled repeatedly because he's just so young. I worry about him just getting hurt because he looks tiny and frail, but I know he's not. It's just very skinny. Yeah. And I am not very skinny, so that's that. I don't know, but I think all three of those guys have merits. I think though I like the if I have to like pick a guy to watch and kind of what gets me out of my seat more, it tends to be like a quick move and then a burst of pace. So I think I would go for Redmond on that because I kind of like seeing the ball get put out in front and just watching a guy run by somebody else. I think that's always like and maybe that's like the American in me. In terms of like if you watch a wide receiver or running back in American football, like when they create that separation, it's just like, oh man, like this is going to be big, and so I think when I see that, even in football now, it tends to be what kind of makes me excited, I guess. Not in the Kyle Walker way though. Sorry. Anyway, well, I don't know. I mean, do we have any other questions or anything, or like? I think this whole thing is still weird. It seems like 3-4 weeks into it, I'd be adjusting a little better, but I'm honestly not.
Yeah, I mean, there's just nothing coming out of the pub really, apart from the Saints' one campaign. there's not a lot going on. I know they're showing some of the old games. So they showed, I think it was, who did they show the other week? I think it was our JPT win. The Pin Trophy final. There's just nothing coming out of the club at the moment at all.
No. I will say that the 76 Cup final is on YouTube. You can find it on YouTube, and you can find it at the Saints Archive if you're a member of that, the Facebook group. And I did watch that back twice, and the couple of things that jump out to me are, one, there's only one substitution. There's one substitute on the bench. Guys are named, numbered 1 through 11. And then the substitute is 12. And I was just thinking, like, I guess that's a question that we could ask is if you were looking at a guy, if you're only allowed one substitute, which guy on our team is the guy that sits on the bench as your substitute? Who is the guy? And I guess how do you think about that too?
Because obviously our subs normally would probably be Bufal, Che, Obafemi, Romeu. Obviously, if you were going for a goal, I'd probably put on Che because he does show that he hasn't scored, but he does show very, very good awareness when he comes on. But yeah, he doesn't. His confidence is just a bit low. If you wanted to hold out a game, maybe you're 1-0 up and you want to try to hold out, obviously Romeu is going to be your guy. Probably for me, Che. I don't know. I'm a big fan of him. I think his movement off the ball is very, very good. Obviously, you do have Obafemi who can just run a lot, but I don't think his impact is as big, personally.
He's not at our club, but I was thinking James Milner is like the perfect one-man substitute,
So versatile,
yeah. That's it. But I was thinking, if I obviously I want James Ward-Prowse starting at this point, but if I could think of anybody to be like the substitute, I would probably pick him because I think he could play kind of a bunch of different kind of positions. You could put him in at either side of defense in terms of a fullback. You can put him in central midfield. You can play him a bit more advanced in attacking midfield. I wouldn't necessarily want him as he's played as a winger before, but I don't know if that's the best thing. But
he wasn't great.
no, he doesn't quite have the pace. But I'm trying to think of other guys that kind of just, because if you only get one, all of a sudden it changes the dynamic a little bit. So yeah, I like it. I think that's all that's in my head today.
Yeah, definitely. Same here.
But Rob, I appreciate you coming on, and I'm sorry again that we had to postpone the thing, and now we have no football to talk about, and
sorry, mate.
Dragging you through this.
Sorry, don't worry about it. It's always good coming on. I appreciate it.
Yeah, I appreciate talking to you again and catching up, and I hope that this kind of treats you well going forward, and everybody kind of gets it stays healthy, and I hope that your birthday is enjoyable, even though you'll be mostly alone.
Yeah, I hope so as well. But now to anyone listening, just remember to stick by the regulations. Stay inside when you can, because if you want football back as soon as possible, then stay inside. That's literally, just do your bit. If you see other people going outside and stuff, let them do their thing. But obviously the police are there. But just if you want football back as soon as possible, just follow the regulations as best as you can.
All right, man.
That's simple.
Yeah, it's not that hard, but some people, maybe my 4 walk a day thing is not helping, but like some people just can't get it through their head. But I'll do better. And if you need, granted there's a time difference, but if you need birthday shots, we can always we can do birthday shots via FaceTime or Skype or whatever, man. We'll
that'll be great fun.
All right, man. Sounds good. We'll talk to you soon.
Yeah, you too, mate.
And that does it for this week's episode of the Southampton Delivery Podcast. Thank you so much for joining us. I hope you've enjoyed it. Special thanks this week goes out to Rob Maddox. You can find him on Instagram at @RobMaddox_. And special thanks to him and apologies again. I had to cancel the first episode, and then football got canceled. And now we had to come on and talk about handballs and, lockdown defending, which is not the same as talking about, matches that we play and potentially win. Although who knows what would have happened if we would have actually played. While you're following Rob, if you want to follow the partner of the show, you can do that. That's the Southampton page. On Twitter, they are at Southampton page. And on Instagram, they're at Southampton page 1. You should also follow Matt Beeling. He does the logo for the show. You can find him and more of his work at We Are Southampton on Instagram. While you're there, if you want to follow this show, we are at SFCDELL_IVERY on both Twitter and Instagram. We're also on Facebook at facebook.com/SFCDelivery. You get all those links and more by going to the show website, southamptondelivery.com. There you can sign up to make sure you're subscribed so you get each and every episode as it's delivered. You never have to worry about looking for it. It just shows up. It's basically magic. I honestly don't know how it works, but it does. I want to take a second right now to say thank you to everyone who has listened from the beginning. We're well over 3 years into this, and it's been amazing. So I just want to say thanks because right now it's raining and there's no football, and we're still doing this because I enjoy basically talking to people and you, and it's keeping me going at points. So thank you to all of you for that. The music for the show comes courtesy of the Free Music Archive at freemusicarchive.org. The intro song is Epic Song by Boxcat Games, and the end of show credits that you're listening to right now is Aim is True by Poddington Bear. If you have a question or anything for the show, make sure you do get in touch. We'll be back next week. I look forward to talking to you then. And until then, remember that together, we march on.